Welcome to the Jesus Storybook Bible Podcast, a place where we remind you that grace can rewrite any story, that hope shines a light through our darkest moments, and that God's love changes lives. Here's your host, New York Times bestselling author, Sally Lloyd-Jones.
Hello, I'm Sally Lloyd-Jones, author of the Jesus Storybook Bible, which tells the story of God's never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. Welcome to the show. It's been a while since we've had a new episode of the podcast, and I'm so happy to be back because today I'm excited to share with you a wonderful conversation I had with Sir David Suchet. But first, I wanted to let you know, Jago and I have a new book. It's called Jesus, Our True Friend, Stories to Fill Your Heart with Joy. In the book, we retell 7 Bible stories that we've actually never retold before. They are stories from the time Jesus was on earth. There's a paraphrase of 1 John. There are miracles Jesus did, like the wedding at Cana. There are parables Jesus told, like the story of the Good Samaritan and the story of the older brother and the prodigal son. And there are also stories about the different people Jesus met, like Mary and Martha. Jago has outdone himself with the illustrations. Our hope is that Jesus, our true friend, will help readers, young and old, come to understand just how deep and how wide and how high and how long is God's love for us all. Also, something else to let you know about. We've been working behind the scenes on another exciting thing. It's called The Story of God's Great Love, and it's the new home for all of the books that I've written that are published by Zondervan. These include the Jesus Storybook Bible and Thoughts to Make Your Heart Sing. You'll be able to follow us on social media at The Story of God's Great Love for latest news and updates about the new book and other exciting events coming up. Now, on to this episode of the podcast. So as I mentioned, I recently had the chance to catch up with my friend, the acclaimed actor Sir David Suchet. For those who love detective mysteries, British detective mysteries especially, you'll know that he's the beloved Poirot from Agatha Christie. And David is also the incredible voice behind the audio editions of the Jesus Storybook Bible and several of my other books. So today, we'd love you to hear a little snippet of our conversation that took place in London in June, in a studio where we reunited to record the audiobook of Jesus, Our True Friend. The studio, by the way, where legendary artists like David Bowie, Jimi Hendrix, Queen, Eric Clapton, The Who, Ray Charles recorded. But I digress. So, without further ado, here I am with my dear friend, and now yours, Sir David Suchet.
So I really have to pinch myself because Sir David Suchet has just recorded my book, and I've just sat here chatting with him as if, you know, he and I, he's a Sir, he's a Royal Shakespearean actor, he's very, very famous, he was Poirot. Anyway, I'm just pinching myself and so grateful, and I get to call him my friend. So David, it's so amazing to be together again, doing Jesus, Our True Friend.
What prompted that?
Well, sometimes I think in all that we give children, we forget to give them hope. And we kind of are in danger of putting all the emphasis on them and what they're supposed to be doing. And that just leaves you in despair because that's the moral code and we can't live up to it. And I just wanted them to have this book that would tell them, you have a true friend and he's with you and he loves you.
But it is absolutely Christian based.
Oh, yes.
And that is what you feel it's a calling.
Yes.
For you to do this for children.
Yes.
And parents.
Yes.
And Sunday schools.
Yes. And
anything.
Any child, anywhere.
Irrespective of denomination.
Any denomination.
Or anything.
Anything, because God loves his children.
Yes.
And I want children to know that first, that they're loved. You know, as a little girl, I had this wrong idea about God. I thought he was hard and cruel
and angry.
And angry and about the rules.
Yeah, I think we all were.
Yeah.
We all had that impression.
And it's so wrong, isn't it? And so this is a book showing God's heart. And we know God's heart comes through his son, Jesus. And so it's a portrait of Jesus. Being simple isn't being simplistic. And I think some people can get that confused and think childish is childlike. But it's what I love about your narration. It's never patronizing. It's never dumbing down. And that's what I feel in my writing. I have to distill down, but I must never dumb down. I must always get at the heart of the truth. And, you know, with your audio, with how you narrate, you respect children and you dignify them.
And can I just ask you about how you write? Can you write them quickly, or do you have to day after day after day? Or some writers, they just go vroom because it flows out of them.
Well, I wish it was vroom. But no, I have to work through many drafts. Well, a lot of research has to happen with a book like this, because I have to get like you said, I have to get the absolute core truth of the Bible, and I have to be accurate.
Yes.
But then I have to distill it down. So I have to make sure I really understand the theology to be able to make it simple. So it takes a lot of research, which I enjoy. And then the writing part, I will write a draft, and then Madeleine L'Engle said she would write poems and then leave them to cool off.
Oh, that's how I would like it.
So that's what I do. I leave them to cool off. And what you do by that is the distance makes you become clear like an editor, so you can edit better.
Yes.
And then my whole goal is to try and get rid of what I don't need, so that what I need can speak.
Just on another level, that's how I develop characterizations.
Is it? Tell me.
Whether I'm doing theatre or anything. I start with a big tree full of characterizations, and then I lop and lop and lop.
So you're doing the same thing?
I'm doing exactly so, until I get a really neat shape that's the character. That's its essence.
Wow.
Rather than all.
And how long does that take you?
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for like a day like today when you're recording?
Well, it's all to do with attitude, really. That I've always, for me as an actor, I'm a servant of my writer. So in this case, I put my head into yours. And so I open your book and I read it through once, and I get first impressions. I don't talk to you because I like to feel I'm interpreting for you. I'm your interpreter. So I start with an initial impression, and then I take each one of your stories and say, what if I heard that? What would I take away from that? And then I do that with every one of your stories. And then I practice reading them out loud to my own grandchildren. I sometimes, certainly with Jesus Storybook Bible, I had a picture of my young ones in front of me, and I told them that story. So I suppose today's work, which took, 3 hours or whatever it was, is about 15, 16 hours prep.
And a whole lifetime.
A lifetime of experience, but you can never rely on it.
No.
You can never rely. You have to say every single job is my very first one, and it could be my very last one.
Wow.
You prepare well and finish even better.
Well, C.S. Lewis said you write for the ear, not the eye. When I was writing the Jesus Storybook Bible, it was early on in the research process, and I was feeling a little intimidated, And the friend told me the story of Luther when he was translating the Bible into German, and he wanted to find the right tone. And he was weighing up, should he go into the universities and listen to the academics and use that kind of lofty language? And he said, no, we must go into the homes and listen to a mother speaking to her children.
Oh, how wonderful.
So he just told me that, and I didn't really register it that much. But as I wrote, without me remembering really, I had a narrator, because I was doing that thing. I was thinking of my nephew in front of me, like you had your children in front of you. But then the very first time I meet you, I don't tell you any of this. I come to the recording studio, and your first thing you said, because of course I was fangirling all over the place, like completely overexcited. I had my parents overexcited. Everyone was, because we're such fans. So I come to the studio, and you said to me, now I'm a humble man, so you tell me, if there's anything I do that you would want. And I'm like, I'm not going to be telling Sir David Suchet. Anyway, and then you said, the way I see this is me talking to my grandchildren.
Yes, that's
and
right.
In that moment I thought, well, okay, someone else is in charge of this and we're just following the clues,
You talk about God's kindness.
Yes.
But that's the way I read it, you say, but I only find that from how you write it. It's not a preconception of God, and I can't put just the Bible God into your story, because it's the same story, but it's a different writer.
Yes.
So you're coming from a different perspective. If I'm reading Jeremiah and the voice of God is there, the voice of God is not going to be the same, although he's the same, unchanging,
Yes.
forever and ever. We know all that. But if I'm serving Jeremiah and how he
Yes.
heard God's voice, then I do the same for you. And what's the tone of this particular story? And what's the tone that I think you may want your God to sound like?
Yeah. For children, I think it's that idea that they have to know, well, everything, we're told in the Bible that we see God through Jesus. Everything about God is seen to us. Everything about God is in Jesus.
Yes.
And we love Jesus. We find Jesus, there's no problem with Jesus, but we have problem with God the Father. So to me, that tells me, what am I missing?
Yes.
Because Jesus didn't do anything without the Father. He shows us who the Father is. So I think my goal was to show how kind God the Father is and God the Son. And it's all coming from joy. That's the underlying truth, is that they're in a dance of joy. That's how the world began.
Yes.
And I sort of feel like if people knew that, they might have a very different idea about what Christianity is. But I think sometimes this hard, angry God is kind of made up. I mean, he does get angry, but it's more about love and what he does to come and rescue us.
It's all love.
It's all love, isn't it?
It's all love.
Yes.
God is
Yes,
love.
exactly.
End quote.
That's the end of that then.
I mean, that was brave of you to write a little story poem from the very beginning of the Gospel of John, the most mystical beginning of any Gospel.
Yes.
I mean,
little bit cheeky.
how did you get there? What made you do that?
I don't know. I just love it so much. I think that's where it came from. And I just thought, well, it's so mysterious, but I love the idea that he's the Logos, the reason for everything. I think that's where it started. And how could I let children understand that he's the reason to get up in the morning. He's the reason beneath everything, the whole reason to be alive. I love that. And I just thought, and it's got so many images like light, he's the life. It's just so beautiful. So I just thought, well, I'll try.
We, in the West, we try to be rational and we try to understand everything. And unless something equals something else,
Yes.
we're not content. But I think with faith, with spirituality, one has to learn to be content living with mystery.
I think keeping the mystery so that a child at the end of reading something will want to know more, that's the best possible result, because then maybe they'll go to the real Bible and they'll be on their own journey.
Yes, exactly.
To find out more.
Well, it is a personal journey,
Isn't it? Yeah.
So you did that with John. And the
Yes.
other question I want to ask you, because I read them, they're based on the Psalms.
Yes.
I mean, there's another very brave thing to do, the Jewish prayer book.
Yes.
So what gave you that inspiration?
Well, I realized in the Jesus Storybook Bible, I had a paraphrase of the Shepherd's Psalm, Psalm 23.
23, yes.
And I kept hearing beautiful stories really heartbreaking stories of children who died. It would be read at their funeral. And I just found that so moving. And I thought, well, something about paraphrasing is reaching those children. So what might I be able to do with some of the other Psalms? So I chose the Psalms that I felt I could do that very simple, distilling down again, making it very simple, but not taking away the depth, hopefully. And so this is one of them, which is from Psalm 139, and it's called Known. I think because in the Psalms there are these beautiful truths that you're known by God. I mean, it's comforting and it's frightening at the same time, but mostly it's comforting that he knows everything.
Yes.
He understands and he loves us.
Yes.
So it goes back to, if you're known by someone who loves you, actually, you have to be known to feel the love, don't
Yes.
you? If he knows you completely and he loves you completely, then there's huge comfort.
And in a sense, you can't be known by someone who doesn't love you.
Isn't that true?
It's so true. And
Yes.
the more you know and love someone, as I say, the more you love someone, you know them.
Yes, it's round and round.
It's
isn't
round
it?
and round. It's that fantastic circle.
So, David, another thing I love about you is your playfulness. And I think that's what we share in common, that we're always looking for the way to make it funny,
Yes.
if we can,
Well,
because the
yes.
Bible's a serious book. So whenever it can be funny, and there's, of course, so much humor in the Bible.
Yes.
And your reading of Mary and Martha, I found especially wonderful, and also the very, very big rule expert in one of the stories. You had his voice down. I just love that.
The only reason I do that is because I'm reading out loud to my grandchildren.
Yes.
And I want that reaction from
Yes.
them. So it's all done for that purpose, because if you, as you say, if you patronize and go too serious, you can make a child frightened and they won't want to listen. You can make them, my goodness, can't you make them feel bored?
Oh, yes.
I mean, they turn off just like that.
Oh, they do.
You've
They're-
got to grab their attention.
That's so true.
And you've got to then, why do they want to listen? So you've got to create moments, but only moments that you've written that I can then do that with. So it's a great team.
It is a great team, because as I'm writing, I'm thinking the same thing.
When I was preparing Jesus' first miracle at Cana, water into wine, up until the preparation of your story, I'd always sort of passed through that miracle and just said, yes, that was his first miracle, and that's all I gave it. And I thought, I'm going to meditate on this miracle that you have sort of paraphrased and brought to life. And it suddenly struck me, meditating on your version, actually this miracle is one of his greatest. It wasn't through touch, it wasn't through words, it wasn't through forgiveness, it wasn't for testing someone's faith. It was just, he changed water into the wine by seeming to do and say nothing.
Wow, I love that. That's so beautiful. So one of the reasons I started with the party, the wedding in Cana, is because I think it's so wonderful that the first thing Jesus does when he comes to earth, basically in his ministry, is go to a party, because he's all about joy.
Yes.
And that's, again, I want children to know that. He's not this dour person who's all about rules and you're bad and I've come to punish you. It's nothing true about that. Jesus was full of joy. I mean, he must have been.
Full of humor.
Yes.
I mean, he's very humorous. I mean, one thing I was asked when I was being interviewed in a television program, what would be one of your big wishes? I would say to hear Jesus' voice, to hear him speak, to hear him tell his parables. I don't believe he was a preacher in the pulpit. I believe he was there with a crowd. He had to keep them engaged. He had humor. He had seriousness. He had drama. He must have done to hold the attention of sometimes 5,000.
And what about his laugh? Can't you wait to hear that?
Wouldn't I love to hear his laugh?
I read this lovely quote from Meister Eckhart. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but that we come from the laughter of the Trinity.
Oh, how wonderful.
Isn't that beautiful? I think that's true.
Yes.
The joy. So I think that's probably, we have a similar mission. We've glimpsed that joy, and we want other people to know that joy.
I'm so glad you were able to join us today to hear more about Jesus, our true friend, stories to fill your heart with joy. And I'm so glad that you got to overhear our conversation. And if you haven't met before, to meet my dear friend, Sir David Suchet. And by the way, stay tuned, because next week's episode, we have a special story time for you. Thank you for taking the time to listen. So, till next week then, cheerio.
You can get the Jesus Storybook Bible wherever books are sold. To find out more about the book and all of Sally's other books, please visit Sally at SallyLloyd-Jones.com and follow her on Instagram at Sally Lloyd-Jones and at Jesus_Storybook_Bible.
Before we go, don't forget, God loves you with a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. Oh, hello, it's me again, Sally. I'm just popping back briefly to say 2 things. The first thing is, don't forget to subscribe to the show, because that way you'll get the stories straight to your phone. And the other thing is, while we're at it, would you rate the show and leave us a review? That would be so great, because it helps other people find the show too. I really appreciate your help. Thank you.